Hello and welcome to Cherries Red Army and our latest stream here on YouTube. Hope everyone is doing well wherever you are in the world, following the Cherries and following this channel. And since we've been away, since our last stream, the unbeaten run continued. It went to 14. We won at Newcastle, beat Eddie Howe's Geordies again. What a cracking result that was. And we were seconds away from backing that up with a win at home against Leeds with some controversy. Aaron and John might have something to say about that, but it was an unbeaten run. It's a very good period for us. And with 4 games to go, it means we're still in the hunt for a European spot. Marco Rosa was confirmed as the new head coach of the Cherries once Andoni Iraola has exited the door after these 4 games that are coming up. So we'll look forward to that, and I'm sure we are looking forward to that in the summer and for next season. 17 years on from the Great Escape and Steve Fletcher's volley and taking his shirt off, and wow, 17 years and what a roller coaster ride it's been since then. Who would have thought? The greatest rise in football history, in my opinion. We're in the Premier League and we've been here for 10, 11 years now. Okay, in 2 spells, but we've been around a long time in the Premier League. 11 years ago, and I think it was the week that Mark Pugh got us going on a Monday night against Bolton and pretty much secured promotion to the Premier League because we had such a good goal difference, and we backed it up a few days later at the Valley against Charlton to win the championship. Bit of helping hand from Sheffield Wednesday. What a day that was as well. Today, it's been announced that Alex Scott and Andoni Iraola have been nominated for monthly awards within the Premier League. And this Sunday is a Premier League fixture against Crystal Palace. And the reason it's this Sunday is because Crystal Palace are kicking off right now in the conference. Will that benefit us? Again, we got a bit of a preview going on here at Cherries Red Army. So get in the chat. There's a few of all
Kirk, you're muted.
Let's go straight into it then. Was I muted the whole time?
For the second half of that bit, last third of that bit there, probably about 20 seconds.
Got most of it.
Got most of it.
We got most of it.
I think someone put something in the private chat as well, Aaron. Anyway, sorry about the last section there. My mic obviously went on mute, but let's go over to John. I do want to start with John Spark on this YouTube stream, on this live Cherries Red Army interactive stream with the fans. And John, we spoke about Marco Rosa potentially becoming the next AFC Bournemouth manager, head coach when Andoni Iraola leaves the door. It was confirmed a few days later, and just want to get your early thoughts because you weren't on that stream, you weren't able to make it. But Andoni Iraola's decided his next adventure needs to happen now. We're not sure where that's going to be, potentially in London. But Andoni Iraola's decided it's the end of the road for Bournemouth. But Marco Rosa is coming in to pick up the baton and see if he can kick us on from where Andoni Iraola started.
Yeah, lovely to be back on. Yeah, it is a shame Iraola's leaving. Obviously, I mean, he's a guy that doesn't stick around anywhere for that long, and you know, there's obviously if he ends up getting us into Europe, then I do think there is more that he could achieve here. But I don't begrudge him wanting to leave on a high, and you know, the previews that I've done for a few different fan sites on games in the last few months, I've said in all of them, I think he's more likely to go than leave, and that's obviously proven to be the case. Marco Rosa coming in is a really, really, really strong showing of intent, I think, from the higher ups. I wouldn't be surprised if they had 20 names and he was comfortably top three, because he's got, not only has he got a track record, obviously in Austria and Germany, of playing the kind of football that Iraola has fostered here at Bournemouth, but he's done it for multiple clubs. His time at Dortmund was maybe seen as a little bit less successful, but he was a phenomenal success at Salzburg. He was another fantastic success at Mönchengladbach, and again did really well. Did pretty well at Leipzig. Maybe wasn't quite as successful there as he would have liked, but throughout all those teams, he played, and that does suit German style, but he played the RB. He played the Red Bull way. He played high press, aggressive, counter-pressing system. The only thing, I suppose, is that certainly in Germany, okay, Gladbach is not one of the top two sides, but he wasn't with a weaker side. He wasn't with a team that's expected to finish in the bottom half of the table. I think Gladbach, Leipzig and Dortmund should be finishing top two, and the other two definitely should be finishing top half. Bournemouth obviously is a mid-table side, as much as we want to push on for Europe. So the difficulty here, or the interesting thing, will be, how does he adapt to how the Premier League is different to the Bundesliga, and how can he implement what he wants to do with this squad of players, which are completely set up to play how he wants to play. All the players are there for him to play how he wants to. It's how can he get it across? Will he be able to not have that frustrating 9-game winless period at the start of his tenure, and will he be able to continue the great work that Iraola has done? And there's not many managers that you could have picked that would have been better suited, as far as I'm concerned. And it's an interesting one again that we've gone with straight off the back of our first non-British manager in history. We've gone straight for a second. So looking forward to seeing what happens come September, August.
Yeah, Aaron. So we're just going to sort of pick off where we left off, I suppose. And Andoni did say off the back of the international break he was going to make a decision, and he's come out, and now we know where we stand, and maybe he was looking at that can help us in our last few games and what we can achieve between now and the end of the season. Off the back of our last stream, Marco Rosa a few days later was then confirmed in post. So the club now are just seemingly going, look, we know what Andoni wants to do, whether we like it or not. The road is coming to an end. We've moved very quickly, and that's just enabled us, in my opinion, and do you agree, that we can just focus on trying to achieve the best position in the league that might be good enough for Europe?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think it's incredible. Well, it just shows what an incredibly run club we are. I mean, Crystal Palace, for example, Glasner announced a long time ago he was leaving. Don't think it's massively affected them, but they obviously haven't got anybody in. There's all that uncertainty. I think the players now know where they stand. I think it's good all round. It's obviously good to have obviously once Andoni made his decision, I'm sure the club were expecting it. Hence, we moved very, very quickly for Marco Rosa. I won't pretend to know I know as much about him as John does, but it's obviously all very encouraging, everything I've read and everything that's been said about him. Interestingly enough, this is an interesting stat. He's the oldest manager we've hired for well over 50 years. Even Mel Machem was younger than him. Couldn't believe it. He looked quite old, Mel Machem, but he was actually younger back in those days. So it's kind of different for us to go for a manager who's a bit older. But yeah, I think it was once it became pretty clear he was a leading front runner. It got done very, very quickly. I think it's good all round, as I said. Number one, now the players can concentrate and get the highest possible finish for Andoni. They know that the new manager is probably watching them. It'll be great. I'm not sure how it all works, but it'd be great if he could, kind of include himself a bit in some of the training. I don't know, not the training sessions, not taking it, just view, watch some live games, watch a bit of training, chat with Andoni. Andoni comes across as the sort of manager who won't, have a problem with that and kind of, won't want to close shop or anything. He seems the sort of manager who might embrace that. Just to share some ideas. I don't know, but either way, it's good, and he can hit the ground running. As soon as the season ends.
Yeah, I was thinking, John, that I mean, I'm sure Marco Rosa, we don't know him enough yet. I mean, obviously, a lot of people in the chat here and a lot of people following the channel have seen some of the stuff he's done, but I'm sure he doesn't want to tread on the toes of Andoni in the club. But surely you've got to let him in the door at the training ground down Camford and sort of just get to meet the players. I mean, you know, I don't know, obviously, how Marco Rosa would feel about it, how Andoni would feel about it. But without treading on the toes, disrupting the last 4 games, disrupting the rhythm, of course, Marco Rosa, I'm sure, would love to go into next season with maybe Europe in play as well. And he's been there before. But surely you let him in the door a bit. And it seems like Andoni's a big fan of him. I don't think he's met him personally, he said in interviews, but he was a big fan of his football and his style. Surely you let him in the door a bit and let him settle very quickly. So as Andoni does leave, he's already settled, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Andoni had definitely brought up Marco Rosa's football a few years ago. I think he was still managing in Spain. I don't think it was necessarily after he joined us that he mentioned Marco Rosa. But he said that his Gladbach team was one of his favorite teams to watch. So I mean, that tells you sort of like how similar the ideas are and how much Iraola sort of like took some level of inspiration, if anything, from the way that Marco Rosa does things. In terms of getting him in the door, I mean, I think you probably bring him in on a day when the manager and when none of the players and the manager are just to be sort of like, this is what the place looks like. But I don't know. I think if I was, I'm trying to think, like, if I was a manager and I told them I was going, and then they were like, "Oh, by the way, we've hired for you. We know you're leaving in 2 months, but we've hired the next guy already. He's in next week to have a look around." I'd be like, "That's quick and a bit weird." So I don't know whether I'd want to be there. If I was Iraola, I probably wouldn't want to be there when Rosa comes around. But yeah, you probably would do. I mean, to be fair, like, we've got a whole drone thing flying through the training ground on our YouTube. He's got plenty of stuff that he can be looking up on, and I mean, he would have almost certainly at least had some level of interview, so he will have read up on stuff. But yeah, obviously you want to give him a chance to, but the good news is obviously this is done well before the off season, so it's not like he's coming in with 4 weeks to go and suddenly it's like, got to get used to the players, got to figure out what's going on. It's like he's got 2 months before he even needs to worry about meeting the first lot of players, and I'd imagine they're already talking about transfers at this stage. So yeah.
Nice. So Stephen Dyer says, John's room coming along nicely with the furnishings. It's looking very, very nice now. Stephen Dyer also says, will Tommy and Sean stay in the rest of the backroom staff? Watch this space. I suppose all to be unravelled in a few weeks, but we'll talk about that, I'm sure, as the season closes out. So, Josh, in the chat, games over the weekend went our way. It's in our hands. Actually, a few weekends have gone our way. It's been a few good weekends for us. So let's go back a few games. Newcastle, Aaron. We were all very confident on the stream leading up to that game. Newcastle not in a good place. We in a much better place. We've got the upper hand on Eddie and his Newcastle side from historic games that have been played. And we got them again. It was there to be had. It was 1-0 to us, 1-1. And Trufer, I can't not mention Trufer in this stream, Aaron. Now, this guy has been ultra consistent. You know what you don't get in every footballer nowadays is someone who's consistently at least a 7 for me. Every single game, he's always available. He's never injured. I think he's captain material if he stays around here for a very long time. And Trufer was missing one thing this season for me, and that was a goal. And he got the winner at St James's Park. He loved it, the celebration. So a quick mention for Trufer in your thoughts on the 2-1 win. Big win though, big win, and we're in this race for 7th.
We really are. I mean, I go back to losing all those players in the summer, losing Antoine in January, Kluivert to injury pretty much most of the season. I think a lot of us were talking about lower mid half of the table would have been a reasonable performance this season. Given everything, we could well outperform last season, and at the moment we very much are in the box seat. Newcastle game is an interesting one because I think before it, I probably predicted we were going to win, but even after coming off the back of the Arsenal performance and result, I still wasn't sure. I know they're going for a dodgy patch. Newcastle clearly really are struggling at the moment. I do feel for Eddie. But I still, whenever you go to St James's Park, you always think in your head it's going to be a very difficult game. And at some stage, they're going to click and et cetera, et cetera. So I wasn't convinced we were going to win, but we fully deserved it again. I thought it was a great performance. It was, gutting when they obviously got the equaliser, and that, I thought it was offside. And then obviously Ever played the pass through, and you think, do we take a draw? I don't know. It's kind of. But then, what a fantastic move as well to finish to that winning goal, one-touch football, some brilliant play. And true fair, as you say, look, for me, he's been, as you say, ultra consistent all season. I thought the first kind of third of the season, he was outstanding. The last third of the season, he's been absolutely outstanding. The middle third, he wasn't bad at all. He just dipped a little bit, lost some concentration, was at fault for some of the goals. But if you take the season as a whole, what a player he's been, and absolutely outstanding. And yet again, as with most of our squad, he's got a lot of suitors at the moment. I saw Mark Goldbridge talking about him for Manchester United needing a left back, and look, we're seventh, 4 games to go. The old cliche, it's in our hands. It really is in our hands, and we have got. I still suggest we've got a pretty favourable run in. I really do feel that, and that includes the Manchester City game. I mean, we'll come on to that either today or in another stream, I'm sure, but. Games are falling nicely for us. The squad, touch wood, is pretty much fully fit, and even Kluivert's now back in full training, which is fantastic. So Lewis Cook's probably back by now, or very, very close. I don't think we've got any injuries. Again, touch wood. We've had a bit of a long break, but it's looking very, very good. And it'd just be ironic. Maybe ironic's the wrong word, but if Andoni gets us into Europe, maybe a year or two ahead of Bill's 5-year plan, gets us into Europe and then goes. I'd love him to lead us into Europe, but as you say, that ship sailed, and we know our new manager, so we move on.
I still wonder if there's going to be concerns for Andoni if he got us into Europe, whether it would be an absolute slog with regards to the squad. Probably not being able to be buffed up as much as it would need to be because of the new squad cost ratio.
Well, look, we've had this debate before about is it good to get into Europe? Like, it's a very fair debate to have as a supporter, and as memories go. And of course, I want to get into Europe. I want to live that, but it will come at a cost for sure.
And with the style. And with the style of Andoni Iraola, there has to be a massive question mark in whether the style would hurt us as well because of all the running. But, that's for Andoni to work out wherever he goes. And I'm sure he wants to go to a club that's in Europe and he wants to test himself there. But that'll be an interesting one for Andoni, and similar for us next season if we do get into Europe. John, another player that has been absolutely exceptional in his first season coming over from France. Scored a lot of goals, both home and away, but a lot of away goals and important away goals for us. He got that first goal at St James's Park, and that's Junior Krupi. Highly being spoken about, of course, and he is being looked at by many clubs, I'm sure. I think it would be way too early for Krupi to go yet. I understand that we are a stepping stone club. And when I talk about that, so I want you to talk about Krupi and give me your thoughts on his another appearance, another goal, but also your thoughts on Truffert, John, because I don't look at Truffert like I look at some of the other signings. So I look at Krupi and think, maybe 2-3 years, I'll be happy. But I look at Truffert and I genuinely feel Truffert could be here for the long game.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I mean, Truffert, you mentioned him being captain material, and obviously he was captain at
Rennes?
Rennes. That he was 22, 23. He was already a captain there, and he's certainly with the injuries that the French squad have got, he's got a shout of being involved in the French World Cup squad. It's probably unlikely because he's only got 1 cap, but you never know. He's been consistent enough. I totally agree with what Aaron said. I thought he was exceptional the first third of the season, first 10 games ish. I felt he dipped. Wasn't bad, but just like his levels were not the same, and now he's brought that back again.
Did he go? did he go too hard at the start, John? Because if you remember the first few games, there was a lot of overlapping. There was a lot of attacking from the fullback, obviously trying to pick up Kirkez's position. Then I feel like he almost was 50-50 mid-season. Maybe he wasn't getting forward as much as he was. And now he's almost reverted back and he's getting more forward, in my opinion. So do you think someone in the coaching team have gone, you can't play like this all season because we're probably going to need you for 38 games, not knowing where Soler could come in, how Soler could adapt? I don't know. I just think he was really proactive early on, took his foot off the gas, and now he's put his foot back on the gas.
I don't know. I can't really remember too much in terms of like exactly how it was. I think there may well have been an element of, at the start of the season, Bournemouth were slightly more aggressive in their press than they are now. I think Iraola has learned some lessons, and Bournemouth definitely do not press to the extent that they have in the previous 2 years, and they're not pressing now like they were at the start of the season. There may have been, and admittedly he played both sides, but there may well have been an element of him working with Semenyo, and that sort of like Semenyo's form dropped off. Although he was playing probably more on the right at that point as well. But so perhaps that was it. But he lost his connection with the guy that was in front of him. But I do feel like his defending dropped a little bit as well. His like how solid he was as a defender sort of dropped a little bit in the middle third of the season. But he's still. I remember the stat coming through about 2/3 of the way through the season. He was miles ahead of every other fullback in terms of how much he overlapped. Even if he was dropping off his numbers, he was still so far ahead of every other fullback in the league. But his stamina is ridiculous. So he's just able to keep it going. But he doesn't quite play at full tilt in the way that Kirkez does, and I think that's how he's able to keep going at a good level. Because Kirkez just. I mean, Trufair is not making the run that Kirkez made in the 4-1 win over Newcastle, is he? He's not bombing on in that situation in the way that Kirkez does. So he's a little bit more measured. As for Krupi, I mean, the news that I heard was, or the news that I saw was that Pep is a fan and Man City want him, and we've gone, you're going to need to pay 80 million at least. And I think that's quite a good price. I would say he legitimately, and depending on how Marco Rosa played, because Marco Rosa has played a 4-2-2-2 in the past, if he decides that Krupi is the more regular player or gets more game time than Evan Nilsson, if his game time doubles and he hits in between at least 15 goals next season, like he could easily be our first £100 million player, because he's only about to turn 20 and he's already hit 11 goals in his first Premier League season, which is ridiculous for a teenager. So I think the most impressive thing about him is his ball striking and the way that he puts the ball into corners. Doesn't always. He has skied a fair few shots, but also like he scored 2 goals from outside the box. He's not a one-trick pony, but he finds himself in good positions in the box. But then you look at the goal against Leeds, you look at the goal against Man United. He's really good at taking the ball at almost a sprint, taking one good touch and finish. And like, he doesn't need to think. He knows where the goal is. He hits it well. He got a little bit lucky against Leeds with the deflection, but I have a feeling that even if that doesn't deflect, it probably nestles into the bottom corner, because that's the kind of shot he takes. So yeah, I think he's been used well this season. He hasn't been overused. He's had to rest. He's come in for sub appearances at the start, and then he's got a good amount of starts. And he's set up to have another really good season next year. If we get into Europe, I think you see his minutes like well over double, and that's when it's like, is he able to maintain his form? Does he get an injury? If he can show that he can score on the European stage for a club like Bournemouth, easily 80 million, 100 million next summer. Like, regardless, I don't think we're keeping him for more than 2 seasons. I can't see it.
But I really hope the club stands strong this summer, because we know there will be offers for him, because he's a higher scorer as a teenager. He's a goal scorer, clearly. But, it might be around the 50, 60 million mark this summer. The club have to stand strong. I mean, with the amount of player sales we've had last year, I know the squad cost ratio is coming in. So I don't know the ins and outs, clearly. I don't think we're in a position where we have to sell anyone this summer, because but when it comes to Krupi, I think John's right. I think we have to say, look, if a club wants in this summer, you've got to pay north of 80 million. Simple as that. And that's on the table. And we'll say to Krupi, we'll let you go then. Other than that, you're with us next season. You'll play obviously regularly, probably more regularly than you were this season. And then next summer you can go for that big amount of money. I just think the club, I don't think it's a case whether Rose has had any assurances or anything, when he took the job. I know you probably can't do that regarding certain players, but when it comes to Krupi, we have to turn around and say he's only going this summer for stupid money. And I mean really stupid money.
And I'm sure that's music to Josh's ears, Aaron, although I'm sure he wants Krupi to stay rather than go. I mean, I'm sure Josh wouldn't even take 300 million, would you, Josh?
No.
He's a big time player for us. So big win at St James's Park, and then we came back home for that game against Leeds, which was interesting because that was a midweek game, and Leeds had their FA Cup semi-final coming up against Chelsea. So for me, guys, I was looking at this going, like, this is must win. Obviously, we drew the first game at Ellen Road. That was a late, again, Krupi equaliser in a tough fixture at Ellen Road. But for me, it was a must-win game. Krupi on the score sheet again to give us the lead. Leeds equalised. Hyan, good to see him back in the goal contributions as well. He's back to getting involved. And then obviously we'll come to the equaliser in a moment. But before that, John, there was the Evanilson goal. Probably one of the best goals that Evanilson scored, actually, because he gets a lot of criticism for not scoring enough goals. I think we can all appreciate, and I'm hoping all Bournemouth fans can appreciate what Evanilson gives us as a number 9, as a man up there to link off the running. Yes, he can be at times a bit wasteful in front of goal. But John, my God, this goal he scored was amazing. And I'm sorry, right? I know in offside terms now that they've currently got it into, which is ridiculous. They've classed it as offside, right? But anyone who's grown up loving football, that is not offside, okay? There's no advantage to that part of the sleeve being off. And the biggest frustration I have with how offside has been developed in the last few years, or the view of it and how it's been managed with regards to being given offside, is attackers and defenders will always be different in their stance. So attackers, in my opinion, in most circumstances will lean towards the goal. Defenders will always lean away from goal, and you'll always get that crossover. Now, for me, this should only be offside if he scores with that part of his body, which I don't even think he can score with that part of his body. But anyway, if he scores with that part of his body, okay. But he's got no advantage. It's absolutely ridiculous. You're taking goals away from the game we love. And not only that, you've probably taken away Evanilson's best AFC Bournemouth goal, and he was so desperate for it. There's my little rant on it. It should have been 3-1. That would have been game, set, and match, and we would have been even in a better position than we are now. That's not offside.
Yeah, and as you started your rant and you were talking about it, and in my head I was sort of like, well, it's part of the body that he can play the ball with. It's kind of ridiculous. And then I was like, but he didn't play the ball with it. And before you even came up with saying in your rant, it's like, he didn't play the ball with that part of his body. And I think that's probably, here's the difficulty, is that in live play, that's quite difficult for the assistant referee to suddenly have to try and take into account in a melee and blah, blah, blah. But the reality is now that we do have those semi-automated offsides and Hawkeye and VAR and whatnot, like, you can easily look back and say, like, what was the part of his body that he was offside with? Did he use that part of the body in the goal? No. Well, then let it stand. Because you've got the Wenger idea that he wants to bring in daylight back into the equation. I think that's just ridiculous, because you have to draw a line somewhere. Far easier to draw a line between body parts than between trying to find a gap in between two bodies where there's daylight. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and I'm normally pretty good at picking out with the naked eye whether something's going to be offside or not. That was always tight, but I thought he was okay. And then obviously they showed that it was literally a bit of the shoulder that he was offside with. So it's really, really tough. And it would have been another Senesi assist as well. Senesi doing Senesi things. And my God, we're going to miss him, because there ain't no way we're finding someone for 15 million to replace him. But
maybe we just need Spurs to get relegated then. That's maybe the only way he stays.
Then he
He's not
goes
staying
to
if that
he
happens.
goes to Juve. He was linked with
Yeah,
Barca.
he's going.
He could easily go to City. I
Yeah.
think he's that good on the ball. I think he'd slot straight in the left side. He'd be like an upgrade on when Nathan Ake went there. But yeah, I mean he's not staying with us, unfortunately. He's going to be very, very difficult to replace. We've been linked with Evan Ndicka recently from Roma, I think, but I don't know what it's like as a ball playing centre back. And I think we've seen, unfortunately, recently James Hill is great, but he makes the odd mistake on the ball that Senesi just does not do. So yeah, that's going to be a shame. But with regards to the offside, you know, there's nothing we can do about it, unfortunately. It's incredibly frustrating, and it was given, and that has cost us 2 points. And annoyingly, I think we didn't deserve a point from their game, from the game over there. They didn't deserve a point from this game. Annoyingly, if we both got a win, we'd both be happier, because both of us would have 3 points from those games instead of both of us having 2 points, which is just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Is there anything you want to add, Aaron, on the offside? I've had my little rant now because that was game, set, and match. The game was over. And everyone was celebrating with Eva Nilsson. He needed it, and what a great goal! And to lose a goal like that just in the game that we love, it's just so annoying because this is not the first time. I think we've been done like this before with the sleeve, and we're not the only club. I'm not just saying it because it's Bournemouth. No. I've seen this done 2 or 3, 4 times this season. It's a sleeve. It's got no advantage at all in the impact of what happened. It's just so annoying. I know. You know, there are fans out there that love defending. Look, Steve Hensman loves defending. Of course, he loves seeing goals scored as well. But you've just taken away a great goal. It's so annoying.
It really was. I mean, echo everything John said. That we can talk for hours. The game's gone, and it's just not football. Blah blah blah. And it's killed it. It is killing it. We all know it. We had a chance to vote it out. We chose not to. Also where I struggle with those millimeter, when I call millimeter ones, right? I'm all for offsides when it's blatantly offside. I think that's the one good thing about VAR is clear offsides. Great. The millimeter offsides. How do you know that the second the guy kicked, whoever it came off, plays it through? Senesi plays it through to him. You know, there's that as well. So it's kind of, that's never going to be 100% accurate. So there's got to be a bit of leeway. And I think the worst thing was, number one, obviously all the fans watching at home and in the stadium could finally relax because at 2-1 it was still a bit nail biting. You know, relax as well and kind of, oh, we've won it now. You know, brilliant. But more critically, I think if we hadn't have scored that, we would have won the game 2-1. I think it's very difficult for players to wildly celebrate, not just a goal, because that happens the whole time, to wildly celebrate the goal which you think has basically won you the game. And you're not switching off, but you're done. You're 3-1 up with 3 minutes to go, right? To then suddenly switch back on again like that, I think cost us. I do think that cost us a bit of concentration, a bit of just whatever it was. And I think that whole episode cost us that point. And you know, we've been there many times over the years of last minute goals against us. This one really bloody hurt. I was still waking up a day or two after, still pissed off about it. It really this one really got to me. It really pissed me off.
Let's go into those final moments then, Aaron. So we're trying to see the game out. We thought the game was done. It's then been overturned. It's back to 2-1. Leeds are back into the conversation. It's interesting what John said about James Hill, because I think he made a mistake that the Leeds player that got taken off in the end, he missed a great chance where I think James Hill was.
It was one mistake.
So that was lucky. But we were 2-1 up. Then it's the throw in. Now we used to score from these types of play with Semenyo. The throw in comes in. And here comes my next rant, Aaron, because offside, right?
Yeah.
Pirot is in an offside position. Now, let's be factual here. So it comes out to Sean Longstaff. He hits the volley, shins it, actually, I think. But he catches it. It goes in. Look, I'm going to be fair in regards to, there's no way Petrovic is saving this, right? There's no people in the way, right? He doesn't save this. Not the point. The point, in my opinion, I've had to think about this because initially I was like, I was trying to think about it. But actually, when you watch it back on the highlights, Petrovic jumps to try and see over Pirot. And that naturally is an unnatural position for the goalkeeper to set his stance. So the fact he's had to jump, okay, he's not saving it, but he obviously can't see the ball. Now, it's offside. Yeah, I mean, are we saying he's in an offside position? It's a double whammy for us late in the game, and 3 points back to 1 for a team chasing Europe. It hurt again.
Yeah, look. Firstly, and I've loved him recently. I think Petrovic was at fault because not for the cross, but the ball that came through was Traffert put out for a throw in. He could have claimed that, and Traffert and Senesi both kind of had a go at Petrovic for that right at that time, saying, "Where the hell were you?" And then he would have fallen on the ball, kicked it, game done. But you still got to deal with it, right? You got to deal with the cross, the throw in. So 2 things annoyed me. Number one, the fact that Longstaff made a run and no one picked him up. He wasn't even making a deep run. He was actually on the edge of the box. He ran in. I'm not sure if it was Tort or I'm not sure who it was, but someone just, and Ryan actually as well, was just, 3 of them are standing there like statues. Longstaff runs onto it. So that's criminal anyway, when you're hanging on with a minute to go. But going to the point of the offside, again, the letter of the law says he is offside, the goal should be disallowed. And I've seen goals this season and last season disallowed for exactly the same thing. 3 ex-referees, I think one was Keith Hackett, can't remember the other 2, all said, yeah, letter of the law, that should have been ruled out. He was directly standing in front of Petrovic. And as you say, you can actually see Petrovic standing kind of on tiptoes, but looking to his right because he couldn't see because of Pirot. And obviously then when Longstaff caught it into the corner, he had obviously no chance of getting to it, but he was impeded. So how Longstaff got it through the 10 players in front of him as well, no idea, bit of luck. But it was offside, and I can see why Andoni was annoyed about it. And that is it's just wrong. It is purely wrong, because whether the rule is wrong, because the rule might have to sort of say he's never going to get to blah blah blah. The rule doesn't actually say that. The rule says if a goalkeeper is impeded in any way by a player standing in front of him in an offside position, the goal shouldn't be allowed. He was impeded because he couldn't see. But those 2 incidences in the space of 3 minutes, that's why it doubly hurt, and it was an absolute killer. So we were robbed of 2 points without a shadow of a doubt, and that really could still come back to bite us.
John, just yes or no to this first question, and then I've got a backup question. Do you think it's offside?
Yeah, I've just had a look back at it, and I was initially sort of like, I'm not sure whether I totally agree with you, and then I realised, no, it should have been.
So we're all in agreement in here, and we're not trying to be biased. I think there's enough fans in the chat that are also agreeing that it's offside, because I think the reason I'm calling it offside is because of Petrovic is clearly trying to find an alternative view, which makes his stance unnatural. Even though he's not getting it, he's off balancing himself. If you were to take all the players out of the way, that's not how he would have prepared for that shot. So how have they got this so wrong? Is it because it's so late in the day? Is it the pressure? Because there are 3-4 referees here. How have they got this so wrong, John?
So I think, and this is the reason I didn't necessarily think it was offside until I looked at it again properly, is that at the moment that the ball is kicked by Longstaff, he has a vision of, or he pretty much has a vision of Longstaff and the ball. And while Pirot would have been in his eye line, it's not affecting his ability to see the ball when it's struck. And I think that's why it's probably not been viewed as an offside. However, what you rewind back to half a second before that is that you're correct. Petrovic, now goalkeepers do a little hop. They always, you'll see them all the time, they do a tiny hop to sort of stabilize themselves, and then they can push off of one leg or the other to get down to something. They don't jump to set themselves. They do a small hop, and Petrovic has to jump because he can't see, admittedly, and this is perhaps the other reason they haven't given it, he can't see over Pirot initially, but there's also a group of 3 or 4 other players past Pirot that he also wouldn't have been able to see past. However, Pirot's the one that's right in his eye line, and he has to jump around him, because the point at which he initially jumps, a second before the shot is struck, that's when Pirot's right in his eye line. But he jumps a little bit to the right as Pirot takes his own right turn. So Pirot's now slightly further out of the way of the eye line, and Petrovic is now completely out of the way of Pirot. And now, in that split second, it looks like he's got a clear vision of the ball and Peru's not in his eye line. But the thing is, he's had to make that movement around the guy as he's offside in order to try and see the ball. So I think it's the thing is, if you just take a still screen and just say, in this spot, is he offside? Probably not in that still screen, because like he's there. He's not here. He's there. He's just in his eye line, but he's not necessarily off-putting because Petrovic is looking at him. But it's the fact that he's had to get around him in the first place to be able to see. If Petrovic had stood where he was and not jumped to try and see the ball, it would have been a far more obvious offside. So I think that's why they missed it, and I think also exactly why it should have been given as offside. I think it is one of those that someone could argue the other way, because if you take that still screen of this is what it was when the shot was taken, but you have to consider a little bit more than that. And yeah, that's should have been offside for me.
But it was the unbeaten run was still in play. So a hammer blow at the end there, 2-2 against Leeds, so close to being on 51 points. But this is the current Premier League table as we look at it now after 34 games. Arsenal at the top, just about. Bournemouth then 7th. Brighton, they've sort of kicked on again, haven't they? They've got themselves right in the thick of it. So Brighton are on 50 points. Bournemouth in 7th on 49. Chelsea 48. Brentford 48. Fulham 48 in 10th, Everton 47 in 11th, Sunderland 46, maybe as far down as Crystal Palace. They've only played 33 games. So, and Newcastle may say they're still in the conversation as well. There's a lot of teams there. Now, before I come to asking Aaron and John and you guys in the chat who you're most worried about, if we're talking about the race for 7th, I'm going to come to that conversation in a minute, guys. Let me just show you the 4 games that we've got coming up there. And there is a poll in YouTube where I'm asking you how many points you think the Cherries will achieve between now and the end of the season. We've currently got 17% think we'll get all 12 points. We've got 15% saying 9 or 10 points, 62% 6 to 8 points, and 8% are saying 1 to 5 points. So if we were to get, say, 8 points, guys, that would put us on 57? Was that 1 point more than what we got last season? So that's really interesting. But yeah, Aaron and John. So looking at this, when it comes on the screen, let's try again. Come on. So we've got 4 games to go. Crystal Palace at home, Fulham away, Man City at home, which is now been rearranged, and Forest away, last game of the season. Aaron, firstly, how many points do you think we need in the race for 7th? Not how many you think. How many do you think we need?
I mean, firstly, it could be 8th. If Man City win the FA Cup, I think it's going to be 8th.
Yes,
but it will be 8th. So I mean, I know 7th is guaranteed.
But
7th is guaranteed. But that's a big difference. I think top 8. I think we got a really good chance against.
Okay, but let's not leave it that tight, right?
Yeah.
Let's go for 7th. So if we want to get 7th, we know 8th might be enough as well. But in the race for 7th, because
I think at least 7 points we need. I would say at least 7 points.
Okay.
If we get 7 or 8 points, I think we got a really good chance there. Because I think I've looked at Brentford's fixtures. They got to go to Liverpool and Manchester City, right? They lost the other night as well. So Brentford have got to go to Liverpool and Man City, so they might only get another 6 points maximum. Chelsea are kind of a bit all over the shop at the moment with an FA Cup final to play. Fulham's in our hands because we're playing them ourselves. Brighton, I think, will finish above us because they've got quite easy fixtures, but we can allow them to finish above us because if they can come 6th, then that's fine. So I think we're probably fighting with Chelsea. I mean, Newcastle and Palace, forget them. I mean, Newcastle fans are generally looking over their shoulders if they got enough points to stay up, which they have. So I wouldn't worry about them.
You can't say that though.
No, obviously not. I think Sunderland have probably tailed off a bit now. I mean, they got hammered by Nottingham Forest. They looked awful. So I think it's us, and Everton lost as well to West Ham, which was great all round because I'm desperate for Spurs to go down. So that was great. And so Everton have got Manchester City next as well. So Everton have got some tough fixtures.
I think it's 2 from 6th. So, well, actually, if you're saying Brighton have finished 6th,
Yeah,
You're saying it's two from five. If we're saying Man City winning the FA Cup,
I think it's between us, Chelsea, possibly Everton for the seventh place. I would say. I just think based on. But look, a lot of it depends on a lot of things. Like the Palace game, for example, is on Sunday, 3 days after they're playing right now. They scored after 1 minute, which wasn't great. We want that to be tight going into the second leg. So if it's one goal in it, maybe, or then I'd like to think they'd rest some players. They're safe in the league, but they're probably not going to get Europe that way. So yeah, playing 2.5 days away in Ukraine, or Poland, I think they're playing in tonight. They're going to rest some players, hopefully, for Sunday. That could play in our favour. Manchester City, again, 3 days after the FA Cup. Man City have got 4 games in 11 days. 4 games in 11 days is just absolutely mental. And so we'll have a 10-day break before that Man City game. Under the lights, Iriota's last game, I really wouldn't fancy City. I mean, they're obviously a brilliant team. I think we got a hell of a chance. I think Arsenal are relying on us that day, really, to do them a favour. So, and Fulham's always tricky. Fulham's probably a draw nailed all over it. But, if we perform like we did at Arsenal and Newcastle, we can go to Fulham and win as well. And then Forest as well last day, a lot of ifs and buts. If Forest are safe by then I think we'll win. I was worried that if Forest had to win to stay up at home, that would be very, very difficult. But I'd like to think by then Forest will be safe, I would think by then. So fixtures potentially have fallen in our favour. And as I said earlier, with literally a fully fit squad now, raring to go, it's there for us.
Yeah, John. So Aaron's absolutely right. I was looking this up last night. So if Man City win the FA Cup, I think that brings it down to 8th position. How many points do you think we need in the next 4 games, possibly 12 on offer, to seal a place in Europe next season?
Yeah, I think a minimum of 7. I think really I'd say probably we need to be getting 8 or 9 to really sort of like be feeling confident about it. I mean, the good thing is you look at every single one of the teams that are sort of we're fighting against. Every single one of them has got like a big team to play. Like Chelsea have to go to Liverpool. Brighton's the only one that doesn't as much, but they're at home to Man United, which is still a pretty big game for them. I totally agree with you, Aaron. Brentford have fallen off, and Sunderland have fallen off. Fulham have got to go to Arsenal next, and Fulham have the worst. It's the current worst record in the Premier League of a team going to another ground and not getting a win. I think it's 46 games or something like that. Fulham haven't got a win out of going to Arsenal, something like that. So that's Fulham. I don't think and Everton have got Man City at home coming up next. We've obviously got Man City at home as well, but we've got favourable conditions to play them in. So we haven't necessarily got like the best set of fixtures. I agree. Brighton have got the most comfortable set of fixtures out of this grouping. And annoyingly, they've really hit form in that time. But what I would say is that we're talking about, race for blah, blah, blah. Like we're still in the race for 6th. And do not forget, there is a condition in which 6th is a Champions League spot. Like that's not out of the question. I thought for a while.
Do Arsenal have to win the Champions League?
No, it's Villa.
No, they don't. Villa have to win the Europa League, and they must finish 5th, which is where they currently are. I thought for a little while that Liverpool weren't going to catch Villa, but Villa have obviously dropped a few points recently, and Liverpool have gone above Villa on goal difference. And Villa, I know. Let's see. Villa have still. What are Villa's last few games?
This is getting silly now. Like I would have taken.
They got to play Spurs.
Villa have got to play against home to Spurs. They've got their Europa League semi-final. Away to Burnley, they'll win that. Then at home to Liverpool, away to City. They've got a horrendous last 2 games.
Yeah.
Then Liverpool, obviously, that's one of the games, but Liverpool will have a slightly more favourable set of fixtures than themselves and City. They've got Man United, Chelsea, Brentford, and Villa. Okay, that's quite a tough set of fixtures as well. So that's an interesting one. We could legitimately be favouring Villa in wanting them to win the Europa League and praying that they lose most of their games in the Premier League.
John,
and 6th is a Premier League.
We got to do a watch along. If Villa are like in the Europa League final and like we're on the tiptoe of potentially getting in the chat, we've got to do a watch along, mate. We've got to do a Villa watch
I
along.
think we'll have to wait until see if like we're in a shout for sixth on the final day before that comes in, because I do think Brighton are comfortably.
Yeah.
I say
Honestly,
comfortably.
though,
They're absolutely
feel
the
like
favourites at this moment for sixth.
I genuinely feel that like I'm gonna wake up, like I've gone from the moment of like, oh my god, being in the Conference League would be amazing, to Europa League being like the what's going on, to Champions League. Like there's genuinely an opportunity, and all the times I've probably given Zach, Aaron's boy, stick for for singing the Champions League song at St Mary's and elsewhere. Zach, it might not even have started it, to be fair. But look, pipe dreams. But
for the time, for the time
it's all playing out. So focus. Let's try and get Conference League first, and then let's go from there. So that's where we're positioned at the moment, going to the Crystal Palace game that we'll talk about very, very, very soon. So thank you to everyone who's currently joining us live. Thank you to anyone who's watching this back on replay. Thank you so much, because I know there's a lot of fans that follow us around the world that are probably sleeping right now. So if you're watching this back on replay, thank you very much. However you're watching, do hit the like button, do subscribe. And it's a really important moment then. I didn't do this last time, but I am back in for Guess the Player. So we're going to spend the next minute or two just playing a little bit of a game of Guess the Player. So if you're new around here, we do this game where I give you a few tips. You tell me who the player I'm talking about is. Obviously, the player has played for AFC Bournemouth, because it's an AFC Bournemouth fan channel. But I'll give you a few clues, and then you'll have a few moments to basically try and guess who we're talking about. John will play along. Aaron will play along. It's not about tricking anyone. It's just a bit of fun. So only uploaded this minutes before we went live, so hopefully this has worked. Here we go, guys. So guess the player. Who are we talking about this evening? 150 plus AFCB appearances, 27 AFC Bournemouth goal involvements. His nationality, Scottish, 9 international goals. There they are on the screen. Have a think. It's the moment. You've got 30 seconds, 12 exactly. 12 seconds. Who is? Guess the player. Guess the player. Go for it in the chat. Aaron, what are you thinking?
I'm struggling big time.
John, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm trying to think of Scottish internationals we've had, and obviously we've got one playing for us right now. But
there's three players that come to mind immediately.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a naturalised Scot, but I don't think he got 9 goals for Scotland.
Right.
And he's the ex-Swindon, ex-Portsmouth winger, but I don't think it's him. Then there's he who must not be named. And again, do not think he got 9 goals.
I don't think Kirk would choose him anyway.
Which leaves only one player I can think of that is Scottish.
Right.
Has got a fair few goal involvement. So in other words, as a midfielder or an attacker, not a defender, because obviously and also would have played internationally, because obviously go back more than a decade, and we've had Scottish players that they won't have played for the Scotland national team.
I don't think Derek Holmes played that much for Scotland.
No, and I don't think Warren Cummings did either. So there's only one player it can be for me.
And he's currently playing for us.
And he's currently playing for us.
That's the only one I can think of. But has he got 9 goals?
Got 2 goals for us this season, I want to say. But I'm fairly certain he's scored a few goals for
he must be close to 150 appearances as well.
Why does no one think I put Ryan Fraser in this game? Like, I wouldn't be that low, would I? I mean, how's he doing? Where is he now? Australia?
Australia.
Down under?
Doing something, I don't know.
So
I think we're both thinking.
Why wouldn't it be Derek Holmes, Aaron?
Well, then he scored 9 goals for Scotland, has he?
Okay.
I don't think he played under 50 games for us either.
So
I
John's
don't think he
obviously
scored. I don't think he scored 9 goals for us, let alone Scotland.
Yeah. So John's obviously used his very intelligent brain to obviously work his way down the road. Josh thinks it's Ryan Christie. Chris Hubble thinks it's Ryan Christie. Mark Cole thinks it's Ryan Christie. Stephen Dye's gone Ted McDougall. Aaron. It is a bit of a curveball by me.
It's not
and
Christie,
I was trying
is it? I bet it's not Christie.
I am trying to play mind games with you lot as the season's closing out. This evening's guest player, and I know I had to do it this evening because Stephen Dye wouldn't let me off if I didn't. All of those clues, and he's too good for you. It's not Mark Pugh. It's Ryan Christie. Well done, John. Well done. Do you know what? Because everyone always thinks it's a former player, don't they? They do think it's always a former player. And I had to be very careful. Today, when I was thinking about this, I thought, I'm going to do a current player. And I thought, I'm going to do this. And I had to be very careful with the words I use, John, because you're very knowledgeable. And I was thinking, if I go, has scored, he has 9 goals for Scotland. Where, again, I was trying to maybe push people down Matt Ritchie side, if you know what I mean. But I was thinking, I've got to be very careful how I say this, John, because if I say it like he's still a current player, I'm going to trip myself up, aren't I?
Yeah, I did. My first thought was Matt Ritchie, because I was like, because you're going to try and throw a curveball because he's not actually going to be Scottish, but he scored goals for Scotland. But Ritchie, since locking in my guess, Matt Ritchie's got 3 goals for Scotland and Fraser's got 4 goals for Scotland. So yeah, Christie's Ritchie scored a couple of memorable goals, but then so was Christie. Yeah. So it was that man.
A bit of a quickly while we're talking about him, Aaron. He's been a bit of a mini stalwart for us now, hasn't he? A bit of a rocky road. He came in, did very well. Then I was very critical of his numbers. Loved his game. Loved his running. Critical of his numbers. But I mean, the guy is an engine. We know that. But someone that clearly any coach, but obviously Andoni trusts to put in there for different reasons, different tactics. I mean, he's now sitting as a holding midfielder at times alongside Alex Scott. But Ryan Christie had some bad injuries this season, but's come back in and been pivotal. We'll look back as I don't want to compare him to Sermon, but a player that plays with his heart in his sleeve.
We're a much better team with him in the side. I think that's the clearest thing we can say. He was player of the season last year for a reason, in a team of unbelievable players. Don't forget last year, the likes of obviously the back 4 that we had, Cliver banging in goals, Semenyo obviously, and Ryan Christie was the player of the year. And this year he's missed large chunks of the season, and we've missed him. And now he's back in the side. He makes us tick when he goes off.
And Adams can't get in.
I mean, Christie's actually playing the 8 because when Adams isn't there, Scott's actually playing the deeper role. I mean, Scott's could play in 6 or 8 brilliantly either. So Christie's obviously that, but yeah, at the moment, you can't change Scott and Christie at the moment. Christie is just, it's energy levels, but it's technically so good. His ball retention, his keeping the ball in tight areas. He has improved his shooting somewhat. He's not there yet, but as I've always said, if Ryan Christie could shoot and score 15 goals a year, he would not be playing for us.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So well done to everyone who got guest player this evening. It is the Scottish. He doesn't play off the left or the right, but he's better than Ryan Fraser. And he is guest player this evening. So we're going to move on to our final section in this stream. But well done to everyone. Coming Sunday, and they're currently playing right now, scored very early in the Conference League semi-final. It's against Crystal Palace. It was time for guest player, but now it's time to move on to Crystal Palace. So they're currently beating Shakhtar the next 1-0. It's half time. They are in some good form, Aaron. I'll try and get the form guide up between the teams.
Shakhtar or Crystal Palace?
No, Crystal Palace. They're doing all right. Obviously, they've turned a bit of a corner as well because they hit a bit of a stumbling block in the road earlier on in the season. I think there were questions over Glasner, whether they're going to get rid of him. Obviously, Glasner's leaving as well, I think. Crystal Palace, I think there is, because obviously Crystal Palace want Andoni Iraola. So yeah, look, Crystal Palace have got a big game tonight. They've obviously got the reverse fixture, which I assume is next week.
Thursday.
So wedged in between that is us. Then, but so what worries me after the ding dong 3-3, we could have lost 4-3 at Selhurst Park in the dying moments. Should have if Mateta had sorted his feet out.
Finish his dinner,
he didn't. What worries me is Crystal Palace might come to Dean Court on Sunday to play out one of those drab 0-0s.
I don't think it's in their interest to, because losing to Liverpool at the weekend helped us in respect that I think that's probably put to bed Palace's European ambitions as far as the league goes. They've still got to play City. They've still got to play Arsenal. So it's unlikely, and they are safe, clearly.
What happens if they win the Conference League?
They get Europa League.
They just get Europa League. Doesn't affect the league.
Doesn't affect how many people play in the competition. Yeah. It's just they've
won it by winning the. They got it by winning the Conference League, where there's a place for that. Okay.
All eyes are on the Conference League for them. We're saying,
in my opinion, I would say so. And look, next Thursday is obviously there's a few days from Sunday to Thursday, but there's not many times between Thursday night away in Poland and Sunday afternoon 2:00 kickoff. I mean, they'll travel back tomorrow, I guess, and then Saturday they're traveling down to Bournemouth probably. So my opinion is, look, as we saw with Leeds before the FA Cup final, it's a slightly different situation. They went very strong for momentum, right? And that's fair enough. I'm not sure Palace will do the same. I mean, they've got a very small squad, so they're a bit restricted. I think the back line will probably be similar, but I think they might, Johnson will come in for Pinot, Strand Larson will come in for Mateta, maybe Lerma and Hughes for Kamada and Wharton potentially, that. So they will, all still decent players. I'll be amazed if they don't rotate, because the conference, unless they win 4 or 5-0 tonight, which we're praying the second half doesn't turn into that, because if they win comfortably, then they might as well. So assuming it stays tight, even a 2-goal lead probably is okay for us. They've got to be thinking about resting some players for the big return game in Europe. And our focus is fully 100% on the league. And even if they do not rotate, they're going to be tired, aren't they? I mean, playing away on they're finishing 10:00 tonight on a Thursday night away in Europe. They're going to be tired. So it's there for us. I get what you're saying. Crystal Palace at home's got draw written all over it. It's just the way, that's just who we are, what's happened before. I feel much more comfortable going away, I'm not going away to Arsenal and expect to win, but these are the sort of games we know we can express ourselves in. Hopefully Palace don't come back and frustrate. They do play a back five. We always struggle against back five. Leeds did it as well. So it's not going to be easy by any stretch. And they are a good team, but it's cliche. We've got to be winning these games if we want to get those 7, 8, 9 points that we probably need. And as I said, I'd be saying that anyway. The fact that it's sandwiched in between 2 big European games in a short space of time, we have to take advantage of that, surely.
Yeah. So, John, Crystal Palace last 5: win, draw, lose. So they're doing
Shakhtar have just scored. Shakhtar have scored.
Yeah,
1-1.
I was just about to bring that up.
Which is great news for us. Great news for us. Yeah.
This is not.
We're winning easily.
Sky Sports. Yeah. This is not like, Michael Dawson, what's happening? Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't do it otherwise, but that affects us. So
yeah,
thank you very much.
So last 5, there's one loss in 5 for Crystal Palace. But as I was saying, John, and you were sort of nodding your head, I think this game at Dean Court between the teams in the league is not blessed with a lot of goals. Okay, so we've had a 2-0 loss, a 1-0 win, a 0-0. And we're going to get those score predictions very, very soon in the chat. I do fear, and we don't need it, because I think we'll joint record the most draws in a Premier League season if it happens. We really need to win this game. But I can't get away from the fact that I think they're just going to make this a really tough. They'll just want it to be quite slow. I think they're going to want it to be slow. And I think they're going to want to make it quite frustrating. If they can hit us on the counter, they'll love to do that. But I think they'll very much like to get out of there without burning too much energy. And if they get out without a draw and they can then go off to their second leg, I think they'll very much take it. And that's my concern.
Yeah. And the thing is that they, their style couldn't quite often suit just sitting back. and catching on the counter. Bournemouth style is obviously to create opportunities of counters by pressing high, whereas Palace's way of sort of creating opportunities when they don't have the ball is drop deeper and then attack with pace. On the counter attack, and that could absolutely catch us out. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Senesi's not blessed with pace. You look at Hill for the Osula goal. He tries to jump ahead of Osula, making the wrong decision in the moment, trips and allows him to get in for that goal. Whereas if he drops deeper and doesn't allow that, then I don't think we concede there. So it's an interesting one because I think I agree with what both of you are saying, that they are going to be, there's going to be a level of tiredness for them, but at the same time, like they're safe. They're on 43 points. They don't really care about what happens in the rest of the Premier League season for them. It's all about winning that Conference League now. That's all their season is now, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. They're not allowed to rest a stupid amount of players because of Premier League rules. I think it's last 5 games you can't make 2. I think because I remember a team getting fined for that. I don't know, a decade.
You've got a squad. Who's to determine who a first team regular is? If you've got a squad, then surely you can play anyone you want.
No, I need someone to look that up for me if they're happy to right now, because I'm fairly confident that there's something about the integrity of the league you're not allowed to make in the last.
There is something.
5 or 10 games. It's about the integrity. It's a Premier League rule. It's about the integrity of the league. You're not allowed to make too many changes. You can't put out a kids team because you've
not a kids team. But what I'm saying is, Strand, Larson, Johnson, Kamad, Hughes, Lerma. These are regular. They can't be.
Yeah, no, but again, that's determined by a separate panel, so I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure they'll make a few changes regardless, because they'll want to keep some kind of level of freshness. And Crystal Palace is not the kind of team that we have done well against this season. Like, we are miraculously in a position where we're almost qualified for Europe, and we have not beaten a single promoted side in 6 games. We've got 5 out of 15 points. Out of 18 points, we got 6. No, we didn't even get 6. We got 4. 2 against Leeds. 2 against Leeds. 2 against Burnley. 1 against Sunderland. So we got 5 points from 18 against promoted sides, and yet we're in touching distance of a European spot, and it's because we've gotten results against bigger sides. Now, Palace don't play like one of the bigger sides. They play like an underdog, and that's a problem for us because we want to be the underdog more so. And because they're the away team, they have every opportunity to be an underdog in this game. Having said that, the one thing that I would say is that we are far more capable now of being the aggressor. We have picked up more results in the cases that we have been the team with more possession. I think over this season, we have a better than 50% possession rate, which is not Iraola's typical way of doing things. And I think one of the main reasons why that is the case now is Alex Scott, who, I mean, you brought up Ryan Christie, Ryan Christie, before in the guest of player, and how he was player of the season last year. He was supporters player of the season last year, if I remember correctly. Who would be your player of the season this year? Because I have to say there's some good candidates, but for me, it's probably Alex Scott as my current favourite pick for player of the year, as a guy that has brought himself on in all kinds of ways this season. Another player that, will be interesting to see if the club can drag their heels on him leaving, because there's a fairly decent chance that a big side is going to come in for him this summer. But
Sorry, John. My big concern on that one, I said it before when you weren't on the stream, is I'm sure his contract's not great in regards to length, and that's where I think our hands might be tied a little bit on this one.
Yeah, I mean, he signed 2 years ago.
If we're lucky, yeah. I mean, it can't be 12 months, but 2 years max.
Yeah,
Again, I'm just having a look now on.
Well, we could do the usual, extend the contract and give him a big release clause. Theoretically.
Look, if we do that and get one more year out of him, I'd be all for it. I would be absolutely all for it.
I think
June 28. June
I was going to
28
say,
contract,
I would have expected we'd get him on a 5-year deal, because that's kind of our standard deal now. If we're bringing in a youngster, you bring him in for 5 years, because even if he doesn't do anything for 2 years, you get some development out of him in the third one, give him a decent contract, and you can extend the process. So
I guarantee you one thing: he will, if he moves, he'll be in the England squad within a week of being moved into a bigger club.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like, and this is the frustrating thing. Like, he's playing at a level above Wharton at the moment. Is he playing a level above Anderson? Probably not, but I'd say they're pretty close. It's just Anderson has shone all season for a team.
He's betting Garner, surely, isn't it?
But I'm sure he'd get above Garner. But I think that was an interesting worry. It was sort of like he's totting up, and also, there's an element of being seen. Was he necessarily having those great performances before the last call up? Whereas just after that England squad, I think it may have lit a fire up his ass, because I think he's had like 3 or 4 of his best performances of the season in the last few games.
If he ends up getting in the squad, that could generally persuade him to stay for another year, potentially.
Yeah, and I mean that is what players that have those kinds of ambitions do look at in regards to. Just look at Solanke in regards to players that play for Bournemouth. It's like, as soon as players have shown, they make the move to the bigger club, and suddenly they're in. Well, to be fair, that's only England, because if it's not England, if it's a not as big nation, then they're obviously getting called up while they're here. Like Semenyo was getting called up for Ghana when he was still in Bristol City, I want to say.
Hyan's getting the Brazil team.
But Hyan's now getting the Brazil team, although there were a lot of calls for him to be in it while he was still at Vasco da Gama. You had what's his name called up for Zimbabwe? Who was our young left wing back that we brought through? Zamora. Who was? Yeah. It wasn't Zimbabwe, was it? He was getting calls for his country.
It was, yeah.
It was Zimbabwe, wasn't it? We've had other smaller nations, but
squad.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I mean, find me a better right back in the world at the moment.
He has been playing really well. That's another shout for one of the best players in our squad at the moment. So
in one breath, you want them to get into their squads. In one breath, you want them to get into the squads, but in the next breath, you don't. Do you know what I mean? I want Alex Scott to be in the England squad, but then in the next breath, if he's just going along and not even taking part, like has happened before, and obviously you haven't got the risk of injury, but of course I want him to be in the England squad. Of course he should be there. He's had an exceptional season, and we'll always have that club badge that we think that's what's holding some of these players back. More in the England team than I think other countries. I think it's more in the England team that seems to hold back.
I would say.
So it's look how bad.
True fair for France as well.
Yeah,
you could say.
Look how bad Tottenham have been, and doesn't Solanke just get called up like that?
Yeah, that's my point. They came 17th and potentially relegated. He's got 3 goals this year. He's in the England squad. He scored 19 for us and didn't get a call up.
No. Right, guys, we are going to move on to score predictions in a bit. This was the last lineup though against Leeds on that 2-2 draw. John, what changes would you make for Sunday against Crystal Palace then? If this was the last lineup, what changes would you make? And play along in the chat. Do tell us what changes you'd make if you were Andoni Iraola.
Well, I love Brooks, but I think you have to bring Hyan back in. I think it was a very sensible decision by Iraola to be like, he's getting a lot of game time. That's great. I can't just keep playing him, even if we're towards the end of the season. He needs that little bit of a break here and there. He comes on, he scores a goal. So, he can absolutely impact games from the bench, as he did in his first appearance for us against Wolves. So I'd absolutely be bringing Hyan in for Brooks. I don't really want to change Evan Nilsson-Krupi as the front two. And, you have arguments for putting Brooks on the left, for bringing Adley back in. I just think Tavernier is just so favoured by Iraola that Tavernier starts. And I do think Tab actually surprisingly operated. I say surprisingly, he likes to come inside at Tavernier, and he finds good pockets of space by playing off that left-hand side. I do think he needs to cross the ball a little bit more often. He really has another analogy to trying to go for a cross, but at least he has Trufair overlapping, who will put in a good cross. So there's that.
He's been good of late, though.
Yeah, no,
really
I do.
Really
he has been really good. I see Josh put in the comments, Clivert. You absolutely don't start him. He's only just coming back from injury. You've got to put him on the bench and give him 20 minutes towards the end.
If you need him.
Yeah, I'd say it's interesting. You kind of want to bring him on to see if he can just make something happen if we're losing, and then you probably bring him on to just give him game time if we're winning 3-0. But if it's 1-1. I don't know whether I bring him on because you probably will do. You probably will do, but I just you lose a lot of control by having Clivert play even in that 10 role, because he's a player that just disappears. Then he pops up out of nowhere and fires the ball at the back of the net from 20 yards. But he's so often completely flaky in games, so he's a difficult one to sort of you can't just throw him back in a situation.
He might play more of a part in the last couple of games.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll play.
I'm sure he'll feature, absolutely. Then Christie Scott, you could put Adams in for Christie. It's interesting to see, actually. Christie's got 2 goals this season. Adams has got 2 goals and 2 assists. He's got a better goal and assist record per minute, per 90 than Christie does this season, thanks to that assist he got.
I just don't know how proactive Crystal Palace will be, so I'm just not sure if I'd play Adams, but I do feel that it's the Adams in. Well, it's going to be Christie, isn't it?
I agree.
And then it's Hyan and Brooks, isn't it, Aaron? I mean, I don't see many more changes outside of that. Krupi's in a good place. Stephen Nielsen, you're not going to take him out the number 9. He's proved that he's our best number 9. Tavernier's in a good moment. Scott's been unbelievable. But I, as I said, I don't think Crystal Palace will be that proactive. So do you really need Adams over Christie in this fixture?
No, I mean, I was a few months ago, I said Adams is always my first name on the team sheet, but he isn't anymore. No, I think I'd agree with that lineup. Hyan coming in for Brooks. The only thing about Evan Nielsen and Krupi starting together is inevitably that they don't always finish the game, and then you've only got an Al to come on. I also like Tav as a number 10, but I wouldn't change that. I mean, the interesting thing this weekend is if he's already been leaving Milisavljevic off the bench completely. But with Cook and Clivert back, that's 2 other names who's going to be. I mean, who's going to be off the bench this time? Is it going to be Tor? Is it going to be Unal? Maybe finally, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to leave 3 or 4 what I call first team squad off the bench completely. It's great to have those options, obviously. But no, I don't think I'd change it. The only other one I'd shout is, I know he gets a lot of stick, but I've been really impressed with Adley. He was starting regularly in that run of games in January when we won 3 or 4 in a row. He got goals himself, and 2 goals himself at Liverpool and Everton, and an assist. He works his absolute socks off. For me, he's a bit more dynamic than Brooks. Brooks is a bit more controlled, a bit more obviously experienced, and can maybe find that pass a bit more. So if it's a big if he wants to heat Hyan as an impact sub again, I'd rather start Adley than Brooks. But he doesn't seem to be in favour at the moment, Adley.
Here's the only thing I'd say, just in terms of that, is that if we are expecting Crystal Palace to sit back, the one thing that has been the case for ages under Iraola is that he favours dribblers. He doesn't have a huge amount of pure passers in the team. Tavernier can pretend that he's a pure passer, but he's more of a dribbler, I would say. He's a mixed bag of the two.
With Brooks, not a lot of pace.
Exactly, with very little pace. Whereas Brooks absolutely has the capability of unlocking a defence. But really, of our regular starting 11, the player that's most likely to play an incisive pass that unlocks a defence is Marcos Senesi, who's, so I do think Brooks is probably going to,
Well, I'm going to have to get you some tissues for when Senesi leaves, John. This has almost been a Marcos Senesi stream. I think you're going to be devastated.
I'm already disappointed that he hasn't signed on, because his stats are unreal this season. He's a player that is not getting the credit he deserves for the season.
We need to have a word with Kelsey.
So unlike unlike Iraola, could Champions League football keep Senesi?
I mean, he's already talking to other clubs. Like
a big signing on fee and a big payday will
exactly. And this is the thing. He is in his prime. He's 28. I want to say he's 28.
He's actually 29 next month.
Right.
So
he's 28.
So interestingly, at the end of next season, he'll be 30. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, this is his last big. This is his biggest move. He's not getting a bigger move than this. And any club that has to pay a fee for him is going to give him less money because they're going to say, well, we had to pay this much. We can't pay you this much. So he gets big signing on bonus. He gets a bigger wage. From what has been rumoured, he's got an agreement with Tottenham, provided they stay up. But if he doesn't go to Tottenham, I've already said he could go anywhere in Italy, Spain, most of the top Premier League sides. He could go anywhere he wanted. He's good enough for it. So, we just got to get the most out of him while he's still here.
Do you think he's going to Spurs? I mean, who on earth would go to Spurs even if they stay up? But do you think he's going to Spurs simply because of his fiancée girlfriend? Because who's down an hour, two hours down the M3? Or do they not think like that, footballers? It's like that they can't think like that.
Well, I mean, they absolutely do. Some footballers that definitely do think like that. I mean,
otherwise he could go anywhere. He could go anywhere, and to go to Tottenham is just. It seems a bit.
I do find that a bit weird.
I genuinely thought he was going to go to. I mean, I thought he might be leaving this summer anyway, but I thought he might be going to like Spain, Italy.
Yeah, but I just think Kelsey's very settled in Bournemouth, and she's obviously plays. She's got her own career, and London's up the road. So.
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly. I think there's an element of favouring that, but I think he could get more. Well, I don't know.
There's Chelsea. A goal. If you do it, I'll do it, and I don't know why I'm getting excited about it because it's Crystal Palace 2, Shakhtar the next one. See, I done it. That was my Michael Dawson.
All right, well, 2-1's okay. 2-1's okay.
2-1's.
It's 2-1 to Palace against Shakhtar.
In all honesty, we're probably reading too much into it. I don't think he's going to really. Yeah, I think he'll do what he's going to do on Sunday, regardless.
Go for it, Crystal Palace. Go for it. Go on. Go.
They haven't made any subs yet. That's good.
Burn yourself out, lads. Burn yourself out for Sunday. All right, It's been a great stream. We're not going anywhere just yet because you want your moment in this interactive video on YouTube on Cherries Red Army because it's your moment on Sunday. I think it's 2:00 kickoff at Dean Court, our penultimate game of this season at home. We're taking on Crystal Palace, and I want to know. Me, Aaron, and John want to know what your score prediction is. So this is your 30-second warning. Thank you to everyone who's got involved. So put your score prediction in the chat. Thank you to anyone who supports the channel in any way you do. Hit the like button, subscribe, follow us on socials, share, and of course, financially as well. There's you members out there who financially support us. Thank you so much for enabling us to be able to do this. One-off donations or a monthly supporter. You can support the channel at buymeacoffee/Cherries Red Army. Details are in the description below. But thank you so much for doing that. Actually, I'll give you an opportunity. You can also hit the QR code on the screen now, and you can support the channel. So thank you very much. It really does help. All these things we use as part of our streams, we do pay for. So your score predictions, I think, are going in the chat. We're going to get John's and Aaron's. But yeah, subscribe, hit the like button. We'll come back for score predictions. Okay, so we got viewers in the stream. Go for it. Score predictions are flying in there, Aaron. So let's have your prediction then for Bournemouth taking on Crystal Palace on Sunday. What are you going for? And then I'll start dropping some of the scores on the screen.
I'm going to go for a narrow win. We've seen it all before, especially with the Leeds game. Palace are a difficult team to break down, defensively good. It could be a really frustrating draw, which would really be very annoying in all the circumstances we've talked about. But I just think we've got a slight edge because of this European adventure they're on. I just think that when it comes to the last half an hour, we'll be really fresh. We'll be very tight. We'll be fresh. We got options off the bench, as we know now. they'll hopefully be running a bit on empty. So I think that's where we'll come strong in the last 20 minutes, half an hour. So I'm going to go for 2-1 win.
2-1. Stephen Dyer thinking exactly the same thing. Up the Cherries in all departments. 2-1. Mark Cole is also going for a 2-1. So I'll pull that one out the chat. Do get your score predictions in the chat for the last few moments, and I'll come over to John. I'm with Josh a little bit here, and I know I've said this, and my heart says we can.
I'll have a word with him.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he's
probably
wrong,
not.
Aaron. And
he's not. He knows his stuff.
we do need to win this. We do need to win this, and I'm going into the same vibes that I think I went into the Leeds game. It's a must win. They've got one eye on the FA Cup. Well, they had one eye on the FA Cup. Crystal Palace have got one eye on the Conference League. We do need to win, but I think it's going to be a tough game. And my heart says we can win this 2-1, but my head says it's a 1-1. And I am agreeing with Josh. So over to you, John, and we'll get the rest of the score predictions out. How are you feeling about the game?
Yeah. I kind of, my mind is flashing back to, admittedly, actually, to be fair, I didn't watch this game. I can't remember what was going on, but I do remember the talk after it being that it was a pretty rubbish game. 1-0 Cliver scoring late on. That was away. That was last season, I want to say. Where I feel like that's the kind of game I'm envisioning. Admittedly, that was raining all evening, and that was a midweek game. But whereas it should be quite nice this Sunday, I think. But I kind of just see like them sitting back a fair bit, not a lot of energy to be able to give. Bournemouth being the aggressor, struggling to break down a really organised defence, and then, you know, late on the game gets a little bit more stretched, and we pick out the goal. You know, so someone, maybe Adley comes off the bench and grabs one, or Hyan is like a minute from being taken off, and he sprints past two players and puts it away or something like that. I could see a close 1-0 game where we nick it, and I think it needs to be, well, look, we definitely don't want to lose. Obviously, we want to, because wow, if we could keep this unbeaten run going for the rest of the season, that would be incredible. But we don't want that to be loads of draws. We don't want to be suddenly have the record of most draws ever in a Premier League 38 game season.
That would be 17, wouldn't it? 17.
I can't remember, but
I think
we're not far away.
Mr. Goalkeeper Mark Davies also going for a 1-0. There's a couple of 3-1s in there from Josh, the famous Cherries Red Army 3-1, and Chris Hubble. That would be amazing if we could get that result. And Davey, I think he is Austria calling. Wow. 2-1 for me. So yeah, that's going to be interesting stuff. Brilliant. It's been a good stream. Good to be back. It's Bank Holiday Monday, isn't it? In the UK on Monday. So I will, I'm going to take my camera for this one. I'm hoping it's not going to be a drab draw. If it's a decent game and I get some decent footage and we have goals, right, I'll do a vlog. If it's 0-0, I'm not ruining my Bank Holiday Monday. unless it's a good 0-0, I'm not ruining my Bank Holiday Monday. So if we've got goals, I'll get a vlog out, and I look forward to that. I suppose, Aaron, final thoughts then as we close out the stream. And thank you to everyone who's joined us live. Thank you to anyone who's watched this back on replay. Do get your comments in below. If you want to put your score prediction in there, I'll read every single comment. But again, thank you to everyone who's been with us. It's been a few weeks since we've had the live stream. We may be back next week. If we're not back next week, we'll be back in a few weeks. So we'll still picking these off. And then I definitely at the end of the season want to pick off a fan stream where it'll be open house. Anyone can come on, give us your thoughts of the season. And Donny's curtain call would have come down at the City Ground, and there'll be opportunities for fans to come on. So do get involved with that before we close out the season. But Aaron, final thoughts. And as we're talking about this on Sunday, this could be a bit of a slog at Dean Court with Crystal Palace and how they might set up. I think these type of games, if it plays out how I think it will, it's going to be really important as well. And hopefully the weather's nice at Dean Court. But it's really important we try and keep the atmosphere at a good level, because that's where I find sometimes the atmosphere drops off a bit, and that doesn't help us be the 12th man.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think these sort of mid-afternoon games are never great for atmosphere compared to night games. So got to bring it, and I think the players have got to bring it. The intensity, as I said, we keep going on about it. We've had a nice break, they haven't. So we've got to be in their faces. There's no excuses. We've got 4 games left of the season. We've got no other distractions. We've got a week after this game before the Fulham game. Then we've got a 10-day break after that before Man City. So there's no kind of 2 games in the space of a short amount of time. So we can put everything into this. We've got a large squad now, all fit. We got to be at it. We cannot play at their pace. We got to be in their faces. Means taking risks, but we, as John said, we have to get these wins now. It's there for us. We've got to put everything on the pitch. We can make 5 subs of very good quality. We know that with who we've got available now. So I think we've got to really go for it and just really, as I said, keep that intensity up. Do not be dragged down to their kind of slowness and side to side passing, etc. Just go at them.
And thank you, Aaron. And John, good to have you back on again. I know you've been a busy man with work. You moved home. You got a little puppy, if you don't mind me saying, on the stream. So you're a busy man. You're able to jump on this one. We hopefully can get you on 1 or 2 more. Maybe at the end of the season, we'll have a bit of an end of season bash. But we know you're very busy. But just closing out. And if this is one of your final streams between now and the end of the season, what an opportunity for the players in red, the club, the ownership, and Andoni Iraola, Mark Rosa. I thought this might end up being a nothing burger a few months ago in regards to the season. No FA Cup run, no Carabao Cup. Wow, 4 games to go. So much on offer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, things, there are frustrating elements. Like I said, we don't concede a late goal at home to Burnley. That's another 2 points. We don't concede a late goal at home to Leeds, another 2 points, and suddenly we're 3 points clear of Brighton, and we're in a much better position to finish 6th. But this is the way it's worked out. But no cup runs mean that we've played the least amount of games you can possibly play as a Premier League team, and that means we are set up to be the freshest that we've been under Andoni Iraola. He has definitely learned his lessons. We haven't had as many injuries. We have had some, but a lot of those players are back now. Like, things are absolutely set up for us to be at our full strength. And there's no excuse not to attack all of these games with everything we've got. We've got that gap between Fulham and Man City to be able to really have a go at them in our final home game of the season. And, with Nottingham Forest currently winning 1-0 against Aston Villa, obviously doesn't help us with our hopes of maybe getting Champions League. But if they were in the Europa League final, that's them focusing on that game instead of the final game of the season against us, where they'd probably be safe by then. So things are starting to fall into place. So the players have no excuse not to really go at this. And as was said by Tyler Adams on his Men in Blazers show, I think the players are probably looking at Andoni, you've done so much for us. We want to make sure you go out on a high. And what a high it would be to say that you were the manager that got Bournemouth into Europe. So yeah, there's still so much to play for. We absolutely have it in us to do this. And I'm looking forward to seeing the guys go out and perform against Crystal Palace. I mean, we're talking about how difficult this would be. I wouldn't be surprised if it still ended up 3-2 to us or something like it did in the 3-3 previously, because they've got it in it to hurt us. But if we're on our game, we beat Forest 5-0 at home last season, and that was a strong Forest side. And this is not the same. So, yeah, we could absolutely really, really put down a marker, and that would be great to see. But fingers crossed for getting the win regardless.
Cheers, John. Well said. It's time to do up the laces, lads. Pull the socks up. 4 games to go. And then you can get on a sunny beach somewhere and potentially be looking forward to playing in Europe next season. Let's have a right good go. And what a perfect way it will be for Andoni to leave and hand over the baton to Marco Rosa, potentially playing in a European competition. Thank you to everyone who's joined us on this stream. We'll have some more conversations in the next 4 games, and we'll see where the Cherries land in game 38. Look after yourself wherever you are around the world. Thank you so much. Do subscribe. Do hit the like button. See you Sunday. Come on, you Ches. You Reds.
You Reds.